Famously called fish tanks, we have another one right here. This is ANTECs C8, and apart from the scene that it kind of looks as any other, it does have some differences, and I do prefer actually having such a case from different manufacturers just to see what kind of difference we will have regarding the inner design, and how well will the competition create something that is already in the market from other manufacturers and stuff like that, right? So we have here the C8, which brings some new cool stuff, I do have to admit, and I really like those parts. But the C8 goes into that Constellation Series from ANTEC, and it kind of brings some higher quality material to the chassis compared to their mid-tier chassis, right? Now right here we have a possibility to mount loads of fans, top, bottom, side and rear, which apart from other fish tanks, you can't mount a 140 here at the back. And this is one of those advantages that this case brings, because checking out the comments from other fish tank, I'm sorry, I do have to mention them like this, but from other cases similar to this one, they don't have 140, and I see the comments and people are constantly asking, do these have 140 millimeter fan possibility at the rear? And this one actually does have, so I really like to point that out. Now, the other thing is, the power supply at the back is located somewhat in the middle. So that's a bit of a difference, a bit, not too much, not drastical. But what happens here? So they raised it from the bottom part. They gave two caddies for your SSD at the bottom and two caddies for your SSDs at the top. But basically that's one caddy that can hold up two 2.5-inch SSDs. So two of those, one at the top and one at the bottom, holding two 2.5-inch SSDs. And above the bottom one we have two 3.5-inch hard drive cage as well to mount it. But going at the back, since I'm already there, because this front panel, front part of the interior of the chassis actually looks quite the same. So going at the back we have some sort of a air duct, which kind of, does it help? I'm not quite sure, but it kind of creates a blockage of cables so that cables don't interact with the side fans. And this is quite cool because you can actually manage those cables quite nicely in those terms, because you have loads of Velcro ties, and this gives you an option to, let's say, separate the cables from those fans. Even though some cases actually do have something similar to that, this is more in terms of redirecting the airflow. It might make some difference, but I wouldn't say it would be that drastical. Now the side panel, the back side panel, is completely perforated, so it has enough ventilation for your power supply and for the side fans to create a nice intake. The same thing happens on the top, but it's not completely perforated because we have the side full steel panel and we have the I/O ports as well. So we have power on reset button. We have a 3.5mm jack, which is 4-pole. We have two USB 3.0 and one USB Type-C. Now at the bottom you would expect to have something that is easily removable and possibility to place the fans outside of the case. But unfortunately in this scenario the only thing that you can remove is the top bracket, which gives you an option either to go with 140mm fans or 120. The additional bracket is included inside the box for 120. The case comes stock with 140 bracket, so you have to remove, I think, 3 or 4 screws to be able to remove the original 140. And if you desire to place 120 fans, you just go into accessory box and use those screws, because you have additional screws, which is kind of quite alright. But placing the fans, you do need to tilt the case on the back and attach the fans here. The side panel isn't also removable, so you do have to do that inside the chassis. The same thing, and the same thing goes for the top radiator mounting as well. Since I'm mentioning here the fans, let's check out everything here. We have top possibility 3120 or 3140 or even 2160. The side can go 3120 or 2140. The bottom can go 3120 or 3140 or even 2160. And the rear, as already stated, 1120 or 1140. Talking about radiator support, everywhere that you see 3120, you can place there a 360 radiator without a problem, and at the rear we can go with 120. The maximum GPU clearance is up to 440 millimeters. Maximum CPU cooler height is 175, which is definitely appreciated when we're talking about a, let's say, a cube case or something like that. and the maximum PSU length is 210 millimeters without the cables. The only dust filter that you have is at the bottom, so all other steel panels are nicely perforated, so as I already mentioned, quite small enough to block the dust, but quite large and quite frequent to have enough airflow. Now, as you can see right here, I have the ASRock B650E Tai Chi Lite, and this is an E80X motherboard. So the cool thing and the difference between other cases is that it doesn't go above rubber grommets on the side, and this gives you an option to nicely rearrange the cables first and foremost, and then you have a nice possibility to mount the radiator, so there's no interaction with the radiator and the fans by placing the E80X motherboard, and it can go up to 280 millimeters of white, so that's really cool. When we're talking about positioning of the motherboard, there's no possibility like in, let's say, Lian Li, where you could adjust the height of the motherboard, giving you, for instance, more space at the bottom for a thicker radiator, more space at the top if you push the motherboard down for the radiator, and similar stuff like that. But you have loads of options, and if you go with a 360 radiator at the bottom for custom liquid cooling, you have loads of space to mount it here, and there's like 3.5 centimeters of distance from the motherboard to the radiator, so you don't have to worry about cable bending or anything similar like that. Now for the top, you could go with a quite nice and thick radiator, but the thing is, if you go with a custom sleeved cables, they might be bumping into a thicker radiator than their Vortex 360. So what I would suggest, if you're going with a custom loop and going with a really thick radiator, there shouldn't be any problem with rams because they're quite low, and as you can see, I still have 5 centimeters of clearance right here now, currently with a regular AIO. But I would go with regular cables instead of extenders for the EPS, because they are touching a bit the fan for the 360 right here currently on the top. And as for the side mounting of the radiator plus fans, I would say you can go up to 6 centimeters and you'll be quite alright. Now, the interesting thing is that the side panels actually are quite cool. They're cut in 45 degrees, the front and the side tempered glass. You have loads of space for the RTX 4000 series for the 12 VHPWR and for the bend, so it doesn't interact with the cable and the glass. That's cool. And the side panels are held by pegs, so you have these 2 openings for the side tempered glass, and of course 2 for the front and 2 for the back. The top panel is nicely pushed easily also with pegs, which you have like, I think 6 of those. So it's almost like toolless design. The only thing that you do have to use your screwdriver is for the, of course, the radiator, the fans, the GPU, and the motherboard, of course, and for the power supply. So yeah, the only thing that's a shame for such a beautiful case, and I have to admit a nice quality case design as well, their fans don't have LEDs on the other side. So if you want to go with a proper airflow, going side as an intake, bottom as an intake, and exhaust top and rear, you won't have LEDs on the bottom and on the side. I actually didn't even want to go with the design to show you that how it would look, because I know some people don't actually watch the full video, some people don't read the comments, so I wanted to do everything properly and not just for the show. So yeah, there's that. So at the back, as you can see, I placed the Neo Echo 1300 modular gold power supply, and it's not that I actually need it in like past videos as well, but always wanted to go and use as much as I stated, from one brand as I can. So we have the Vortex 360, we have the Fusion fans, and we have loads of them. These Fusion fans come with an AIO, and I added 7 more, 3 at the bottom, 3 at the side, and 1 at the rear. Unfortunately, I don't know if they have 140. That would be really cool to place it here at the back to see actually if, well, the thermals are okay, so there's nothing to complain here. And what's there left? Yeah, that's it when we're talking about the ANTEC products. Now let's check out the benchmarks, because it's quite similar with Performance 1. It really does perform quite nice. So we have 88 on the AMD Ryzen 9 7900 X3D in AIDA 64 Extreme Edition. Clock speed goes up to 4950 megahertz, and the GPU is at 67 degrees Celsius. This is MSI RTX 4080 Gaming X Trio. And then when we go with Cinebench, we have 88, and then it kind of lowers down. It's constantly going between 86 and 87. So that's really cool. And the clock speed from the CPU starts at 4850, and then it raises, eventually going in some benchmarks with 4950 megahertz, which is quite nice, and I do have to admit that. And then we have the Cinebench scores. So it starts at 26,400 and eventually goes up to almost touching 26,500, which is outstanding, and kind of keeps that going. It does vary a lot by 50 Cinebench points, or I would say even more, but it's there. The performance is there in terms of not the AIO exactly, because if we place an AIO that has a thicker radiator or anything similar to that, of course the performance would be much better. But the configuration of the fans, the bottom and side intake, top and rear exhaust, this is it. This is really good and nicely designed. So yeah, that's all I can say about it. It was nice process of building inside this case. And if you have a bit longer extenders, because I took these a bit longer than usual, you'll have a bit less space than usual. But if you go with regular extenders, or if you go with the normal cables, honestly, in such a case that has such a visibility on the parts inside, I wouldn't save and go with regular cables from the power supply. I would have to go with something custom without a doubt. So yeah, it does have some a bit of a space, but if you don't use hard drives, you can use that cage to fill up the cables inside, and that's basically it. One more thing, since we're talking about fusion fans, each of those has 2 cables running out. So when you take into consideration that currently right here I have 10 fans, that's 20 cables altogether running out, not to mention the pump as well as the block top, we have 22 cables running out, and you do need to manage that somehow, but that's not about the case. It's, as you can see, it's possible, it's doable, so yeah, there's that. But all in all, since we're talking about Constellation Series, I'm quite satisfied with the overall design, because we have cheap knockoffs of the fish tank design, we have some high quality ones, we have varieties of everything else. So I would say this one goes in the mid to top tier without a doubt, because the quality of the material is there. We have some differences in terms of storage, we have some differences when we're talking about the possibility to mount 120 140 and 120 140 bottom and rear, which is quite cool, and that's it. The only thing that bugs me a bit is not having the possibility to mount the radiator and the fans outside of the chassis, and that's all there is to it. Love the design, love the top cover, it kind of does nicely blend in with everything else right here, and you have it in black and white, so that's cool, gives you an option to, I don't know, do what you want with your setup and your PC to pair it up quite nicely. So talking in those terms, the ANTEC C8 black and white links are in the description below, as well as the Fusion Fans Vortex 360 and the Neo Echo 1300 GM, which will redirect you to your region where you could buy them, and you can check the prices. Finally, at the end, don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, click the notification bell, and hopefully I will see you in another one. Thanks for watching, bye bye.